June 3rd, 1991, Costa Mesa, California. A beautiful 23-year-old woman with a bright future is coming home after attending a concert with a friend at the Forum. After she drops him off at 2:05 a.m., she's driving home to Newport Beach on Highway 73 in her silver Honda when she has a blowout, a flat tire. A stranger would stop, but instead of offering kindness, she walked straight into hell. And what should have been a simple roadside inconvenience became the last moments of her life. This is a story of a random act of pure evil that shattered a family forever, and the bizarre twist of fate, or divine intervention, that finally brought her monster to justice. This is the story of Denise Huber, the freezer murder. Hey y'all, I'm Chris Calvert.
And I'm her husband, Rob Pottorff. Welcome to Hitched to Homicide.
For better or worse.
Till death do us part.
Welcome back, everybody.
Yes, welcome. And for our friends over there in Albania.
Albania. I feel like we've been to Albania before.
I don't know if we have or not. Well, if we have, we're going to go back there right now.
Okay.
Miro se vini, miro se veni, miro se vini.
Very nice.
There you go.
Well, wherever you are listening, be sure to like, rate, and review the podcast. Just takes a second. It helps other people who love true crime to find us. And if you're watching us on YouTube, please hit that subscribe button below.
Please do.
If you want true crime all the time with Hitched to Homicide, please join our closed Facebook group. They're called the In-Laws and Outlaws. Lots of outlaws. But we love them like they're in-laws.
Yeah, they're a lot of fun.
Go to H2H In-Laws and Outlaws on Facebook and join. All you have to do is answer a couple questions. You can get in from that moment on.
Please.
Be ready.
Yes.
You can find us on Instagram at Hitched to Homicide or on X at H2H_podcast. We also have a Buy Me a Coffee link where you can send Rob some coffee.
Yes.
And you can also send us a message or a text, and that link is at the bottom of the show notes.
And I keep pushing Pete's Coffee, and they still haven't contacted me.
No word from Pete.
No word from Pete's. It's good coffee, though.
Well, Rob, I know I'm going to answer this question for you. First off, Rob has a cold.
Yeah.
But he hasn't given it to me yet. So everybody keep your fingers crossed.
I've stayed away.
Do you believe in divine intervention?
Of course I do.
I do as well.
Yeah.
And this case, I just want to tell everybody out there, this case is why everybody should listen to their intuition, that little voice in your head. If you think something is weird or you see something, say something to somebody.
Sure.
Before we get started, let me thank some sources: the LA Times, the Supreme Court of California, A&E TV, Oxygen, The People vs. Famalaro, Reddit, Met News, and many, many others. I will list them all in the show notes.
All right. Well, you ready?
I am.
Let's do it.
Denise Annette Huber was born on November 22nd, 1967, in Modesto, California, to Dennis and Ione Huber. Her father was from South Dakota. Both of her parents were actually from South Dakota. They grew up there, met there, got married there, and then they moved to California. Her grandparents will live in South Dakota for a long time, Alvina and Edward Gustav Huber.
Is that South Dakota somewhere I've always wanted to go, just because I want to see the Mount Rushmore?
Yeah, me too.
Yeah.
Never been. Yeah. Never been to the Dakotas.
Yeah.
She also has a brother, Jeff. She's very close with her father. She's very close with both parents. But she and her dad would go to breakfast once a week just so the two of them could catch up, which I thought was very sweet.
Nice.
She attended grade school in several California cities and went to junior high and high school at Los Angeles Baptist High School. And in 1985, she graduated. Then she went to Dallas College, Richmond campus in Dallas, Texas, and then Covenant College in Lookout Mountain, Georgia, which is really close to Chattanooga, Tennessee. It's a small private Christian and liberal arts school.
Wonder why she chose those two.
I don't know. She wanted to go into social services, but she ends up coming back home, and she goes to UC Irvine, and she graduates from there with a degree in social sciences in 1990. Now, after graduation, she's living at home with her parents on Vista Grand in Newport Beach, California, and she's working in a couple of different places. She's a waitress at the Cannery restaurant in Newport Beach, and she's a sales clerk at the Broadway store in the Fashion Island Shopping Center in Newport Beach. She's looking for the right job. She's living at home with her parents. And since she really does like her parents, it doesn't bother her that she's not in an apartment with a bunch of friends or something.
Yeah, I'm sure. Listen, she lives in Newport Beach. Come on.
Yeah, why not? Denise was a sweet, always optimistic, social young woman. She was looking forward to her future. She was known for her beautiful smile and her outgoing, fun-loving nature. She's a typical Southern California girl, which, you know, why would she want to leave Newport Beach?
Yeah, exactly.
She's been dating a guy named Steve Horrocks for about 6 months, and he knows she really likes English singer-songwriter Stephen Patrick Morrissey and the lead singer of the Smiths in the 1980s, who was now a solo artist who just went by Morrissey.
Right.
There Is a Light That Never Goes Out is his most well-known song. I looked it up because Denise and I are very close in age. So I was like, did I miss out on the Morrissey thing? I need to see who he is.
Yeah.
But her boyfriend Steve got tickets to see him on Sunday, June 2nd, 1991 at the Forum. But then at the last minute, he had to work that night as a bartender at the Spaghetti Factory.
There you go.
They are both friends with a guy named, and you can't make this up, Rob Calvert.
Really?
Yes.
Wow. Okay.
And so Denise asks Rob to go with her to the concert instead of Steve.
Right.
Because they're all friends.
Sure.
Now, the plan was Denise was going to drive her car to the concert. She was all gussied up in a dress, black thigh-high stockings, and high heels. She picked up Rob Calvert. I just like saying both names. She picked up Rob Calvert at his place in Huntington Beach. And by the way, Rob had seen Denise in these heels that she's wearing before, just a few weeks before, actually.
Okay.
So she's wearing them that night, and he's seen her wearing them before out partying.
Okay.
You know what? That was kind of a thing in the 80s. We wore heels when we would go out to parties. I don't know why. I don't know why.
Especially since you were going out to clubs to dance and all that.
Yeah, but we would wear dresses and hose, and she's wearing these thigh-high hose. I don't know if any of the other ladies remember these, but you didn't have to wear a garter belt with them or anything like that. They just had elastic at the top of your thighs, and so they would go
Cut
all
off
the way
your
up.
Circulation and your legs
Well,
would turn
yeah, a little bit if you weren't careful.
blue. Yeah.
These two, her and Rob, stopped at a liquor store and got some orange juice and a small bottle of vodka and a bag of pretzels. And then they get to the Forum at 8 o'clock. They do a couple of shots of vodka in the car. They were, quote, getting a little partied up before the concert, end quote,
Sure.
according to Rob.
Yeah.
They're pre-gaming, what we would call pre-gaming now.
Yeah.
During the concert, Denise and Rob shared a beer, and then the concert ended at 11 or 11:30, and after that they went to a place called El Paso Cantina on the PCH in Long Beach, the Pacific Coast Highway, and they stayed there until closing time, which was somewhere between 1:30 and 2 a.m.
Okay.
And while there, Denise had a couple more beers, and then they called it a night because it's Sunday, and they both had to work the next day. And Rob says that Denise wasn't drunk, but based on what these two had to drink, it's speculated later on that she had a blood alcohol level between 0.08 and 0.11,
Ooh.
and a person is considered impaired at 0.08. I don't know if I believe that or not.
Yeah.
I'm just saying that it would come up later.
Right.
But Denise drove him home to his place in Huntington Beach. She dropped him off around 2:05 a.m., June 3rd, 1991. This is the last time anyone will ever see Denise alive again. Now, she's on her way home in her Honda, and it blows a tire, and she skids before she stops the car on the side of Highway 73, the Corona Del Mar Freeway in Orange County. It's just north, she is just north of the Highway 55 turnoff, which was her way home to Newport Beach.
Okay.
So she puts on her hazard lights, and she is thought to have gotten out of the car to walk to the call box, which wasn't far away. It's 1991. There are cell phones. I had one in my car at that time.
Yeah, I did too.
But it didn't come out of the car.
No, it had a big old coil cable on it, yeah.
Well, mine was like in between the seats, in between the bucket seats. Yeah. But Denise didn't have a phone. Hold that thought.
Okay.
John Famalaro was born on June 10th, 1957 in Long Island, New York, to Anne and Angelo Famalaro. He's the youngest of three with an older brother, Warren, and an older sister. His dad was an Air Force vet and then a businessman, and his mother was a stay-at-home mom who everyone has said was the dominant force in the family. She was verbally abusive to her kids and her husband. She would use religion to justify her behavior, and she used religion to justify her behavior when she would intimidate people. She used to tell her children that they were going to hell and that she needed, quote, to save them, end quote.
Wow.
The three kids gave in to their mother's demands, just like the father. Anne controlled what the kids wore, selected their classes, would rummage through their belongings, and even eavesdrop on their telephone calls as they got older.
Wow.
She was a neighborhood busybody who would get really upset over small things, and nobody in the neighborhood where John grew up liked his mom, and so no one ever came over to their house to play. But that wasn't really the reason. You see, Anne, who is obviously knuckin' futz, is also a hoarder.
Oh.
She collected newspapers, magazines, food, laundry, silver, and boxes. Some of her hoarding resulted from her fierce anti-communism stand. She believed the family needed to hoard food and silver to survive a possible Russian invasion. It's Red Dawn all the time at her house.
Wow. She better stop watching that movie.
Well, the apple doesn't fall too far from the tree.
Yeah.
John was weak. He was picked on at school, where they nicknamed him Famalaro instead of Famalaro because they thought he was effeminate and meek. Wow. And John was a loner. He also had these wide mood swings, like from hyperactivity to depression. So was he a manic depressive? He also had a tic, like a facial tic and a head tic. And so did his mom, by the way. But John's head and neck would twitch when he was nervous and when he was engaged in obsessive ritual behavior.
So he had OCD on top of
He's got
everything.
issues all over the board, yeah.
Okay.
And part of his OCD involved symmetry. So if somebody touched him on one side of his body, he needed the other side touched, quote, so it would be even, end quote.
Yeah.
He collected piles of books, papers, and magazines in his room. His quirks and his inability to sit still and focus got him into trouble a lot at school.
I'm sure.
John's mother, Anne, really sort of ignored him, showering his older brother, Warren, with all the attention. And when I say attention, I do mean attention. She would beat them with a belt, and she continued to give John and his older brother, Warren, baths into their preteen years. And according to Warren, John's older brother, she was basically sexually abusing them.
Oh, man.
And all the while, she was preoccupied with ensuring that the children did not engage in and were not exposed to any sexual activity while she's molesting them.
Man.
She did not allow them to take sex education classes at school. She didn't permit them to see anything on television or in the movies that was more intimate than hand-holding. She often entered the boys' rooms at night to make sure they were not masturbating. And during their teens, Anne did not allow the children to date. And if you believe John, Warren was molesting him when they were tweens and teens as well. So the mom is molesting both of them, and then John's older brother Warren is molesting him.
Man.
But get this, when John's brother Warren was in college, their mother Anne secretly followed him and his girlfriend to a motel room and waited until Warren left, and then she barged into the room after, I believe she said she was like housekeeping, like she knocked on the door, housekeeping. and she confronted Warren's girlfriend. He's already left. But she confronts Warren's girlfriend, Mary, slaps her in the face, and then starts rambling on about religion and sex and claimed that Mary would die that same night. And when Mary asked how in the world that was going to happen, Anne tackled her and began choking her.
Oh, man.
This is her son's girlfriend.
Wow.
Mary breaks free, calls the police, but later her boyfriend Warren persuaded her not to press charges. So this is John's mother.
Wow.
When John is a teenager, his mother sent him to a seminary, not with the hope that he would become a priest, but so, quote, a lot of that would rub off on him, end quote. After he graduated, he went to a Catholic liberal arts college where he met Ruth, with whom he had an on-again and off-again relationship for 2 to 3 years.
Okay.
And during that time, Ruth got pregnant and had an abortion. And near the end of the relationship, she gets pregnant again. And she refused when John proposed marriage. And then she went ahead and had this baby, but gave the child up for adoption. And then she just moved to Texas. And Ruth's abortion and her decisions to end the relationship and to give up the child in her second pregnancy were painful and traumatic for John. Her decision to give up the child for adoption was particularly upsetting because John had hoped to raise the child himself. But he lost a court battle for custody and was later unable to learn where this baby was. Now, in Warren's view, John's relationship with Ruth failed not because of John, but because Ruth's family was frightened of their mother. The family was afraid of their mom.
Gee, I wonder why.
Another, by the way, side story, John's brother Warren, who will go on to become a chiropractor, will be convicted of sexually molesting 2 children and basically raping a 17-year-old girl.
This whole family's just
it's crazy.
up.
He would be committed to Patton State Hospital as a mentally disordered sex offender. Duh.
Yeah.
And this all happens about the same time Anne decides to run for political office. Their mom's deciding she's going to run for a political office, a seat on the Santa Ana City Council. But Warren's actions put an end to that. She's running to fight abortion and porn and a local adult theater. And then Warren pops off and he's arrested for, abusing these underage kids.
Right.
And it hits the newspaper the same day her announcement hits the newspaper.
Good timing.
That's quite the scandal.
Yeah.
Quite the scandal.
A little bit.
After this, John's family moves to Prescott, Arizona to avoid the embarrassment. Now, John is going to go to a few different colleges, and at one point, he actually went to chiropractic school as well. I guess because it worked out so well for his brother.
Yeah.
He went to Santa Ana College, Cleveland Chiropractic College in Los Angeles in 1980 and 1981. But when John's grandmother moved to Arizona to live with his mother, John stayed in California, and he tried to have a few business ventures, including house cleaning, maintenance, and painting. House cleaning? He's a hoarder.
Yeah.
He eventually got into the house painting business, hired a team of painters, and moved his business into the warehouse on Verdugo Drive in Laguna Hills, California.
Man, I'd like to see that warehouse after a while.
Oh, we're going to talk about it.
Okay.
As John gets older, he becomes more social and had several girlfriends over the years. On many occasions, however, his work would overwhelm him, often at the cost of his social life, his appearance, and his health. John's friends and ex-girlfriends said he had a good sense of humor, and they described him as fun and intelligent, but they also described him as secretive, manipulative, and a smooth talker. Now, as an adult, John's mood swings continued. At times he was manic and had a bunch of energy, but he could also become very withdrawn and depressed. And he remained deeply religious, but he developed a little more open attitude about sex. He continued to amass papers and books and boxes, and he was paranoid about his possessions. He kept his rooms locked and was nervous whenever people were around his things. So he's hoarding just like his mom, and he's paranoid that people are going to touch his stuff.
Wow.
But I want to talk about his girlfriends for a second.
Yeah, let me hear about these prizes.
In 1987, John was dating a woman named Cheryl. They took a trip to New York City where they stayed in a hotel room that faced Times Square. By the way, I can't think of a worse place to stay in New York City than Times Square.
Yeah.
Y'all stay someplace else. You can go into Times Square, but it's a lot. There's no reason to stay there, actually.
Exactly.
One morning, as they were play fighting in bed, John handcuffed Cheryl by both wrists to a bar across the window. John then pulled off her nightgown, opened the curtains on the window, and walked out of the hotel room laughing, and left her there naked for several hours.
Jeez.
And when John returned and released her handcuffs, he's still laughing, and Cheryl was traumatized, and she couldn't even speak. And when she rejected his attempts to become amorous, he's like, oh, it was just for fun.
Yeah.
He appeared to realize that she was upset, and then he tries to calm her down. Just calm down. Can you imagine?
Yeah, those are two words that you don't use.
Guys,
Yeah.
don't tell a woman to calm down.
No,
Just don't.
No.
Cheryl decides she's going to play along with John for the remainder of the trip just so she can get back to California in one piece.
Yeah.
And then Cheryl ended the relationship after they returned. But in 1991, she resumed their relationship, and they remained friends even after John moves to Arizona. Now, Cheryl denied she had been handcuffed consensually as part of consensual sex with John, despite photographs that he took of her wearing handcuffs in the hotel room that morning. And one photograph showed her smiling and handcuffed naked to the hotel window with the curtains open, and a second photograph showed her smiling and naked while she was handcuffed, and her hands were fondling John. And she's eventually going to acknowledge that the photographs were taken that morning, but she didn't remember them being taken because she had these blockages in her memory because of all the trauma.
Okay.
And as a result of the incident, Cheryl has been unable to have a relationship with a man because she has found it difficult to trust or open up. I get it. I get it. Then John began dating a woman named Nancy. Nancy had been dating John for about a year when in March or April of 1989, she stopped by his home in Lake Forest, California. And after they kissed for a time in his bedroom, Nancy said she was in a hurry and had to leave. And John pushed her onto the bed, causing her back and shoulder and head to hit a bookcase. And when Nancy again says, I have to go, he placed the full weight of his body on top of her. And Nancy then tried to struggle with him. And during the 10 to 15 minute struggle, John pried her legs apart and unzipped her shorts. Then he sat on her chest, pinned her arms down with his knees, raised her arms above her head, and handcuffed her. Nancy assumed the handcuffs came from John's bedpost because he normally kept a pair hanging there. Ladies, if you see a man's bedroom and there are handcuffs hanging from the bedpost and you didn't put them there yourself,
Yep.
walk away.
Yep. Turn around and run.
John had never used handcuffs in her previous sexual encounters with him, and she became frightened and angry. John undid his pants, pulled Nancy's shorts down, and gave her an intense stare and a look that she had never seen before. And when she began to cry and threatened to make a report of date rape to the police, John jumped off of her, refastened his pants, and uncuffed her. And as he left the room, John turns around and looks at her, calls her a bitch, and says, quote, "You are the one that brought this on," end quote.
Jeez.
Crazy.
Yeah.
Well, it's going to get a little crazier, so hang on.
All right.
Nancy was left with like scraped and raw wrists. She didn't see John for 3 or 4 months. But eventually, they get back together.
What is wrong with these girls?
I don't know. John later told Nancy that the handcuffing was just a mature sex game that she didn't understand, and he hadn't expected her to react the way she did. He never tried to use the handcuffs on her again, and John and Nancy became engaged in early 1991.
What? Oh, jeez.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Then John made a 42-minute telephone call to the Hotline Help Center in Orange County, which helped callers with issues of depression and thoughts of suicide, and was also used as a prayer line. And in June of 1991, John's sister Marion receives a telephone call from John, who's crying and says he's upset about something that had happened many years earlier. Then Nancy ended their relationship and their engagement at the end of May into early June of 1991, which makes me think she breaks up with him early June 1991. He's just distraught and maybe possibly suicidal or whatever. He's in one of his weird mood swings.
Sure.
And he calls the hotline. And then he calls his sister. But this brings us back to June of 1991, June 3rd, 1991, in Costa Mesa, California, on the Corona Del Mar Freeway in Orange County, on Highway 73, just north of Highway 55, turnoff toward Newport Beach. Okay. Now, we're never going to know exactly what transpired that night. When Denise blows her tire and moves to the side of the road, before she starts walking to the call box, or even perhaps before that, she's taken off her black thigh-high stockings, just what you said, until they're just choking you to death.
Yeah.
She took them off and she tossed them in the floorboard, and this was something normal for her to do. Like her girlfriend said, yeah, she would do this. She would do this when they became uncomfortable, right?
Sure.
So she takes off her stockings, she puts her black heels back on, she puts on her hazards, and she starts walking to the call box. And it's believed that that is when John Famalaro shows up. We can only assume, saying that he wants to help her. Now, he either lured her back to his vehicle or he caught her off guard on the side of the highway, but he hits her in the head using a claw hammer, knocking her unconscious and dragging her into his car. He then drove her to the warehouse he rents for business on Verdugo Drive in Laguna Hills, California, where he will drag her into the warehouse. He will handcuff her tightly. And when I say tightly, I mean he's handcuffed her super tight. He covers her eyes and mouth with duct tape. He stripped her naked and he sodomized her. Now, it's not known how long he keeps Denise in this state in his warehouse. What we do know is that he will put white kitchen garbage bags over her head and beat her to death with a pry bar, one of those great big huge metal things that they use to take nails out of like the roof, right?
Yeah.
Meanwhile, on the morning of June 3rd, Ione Huber gets up that morning and she sees that her daughter Denise didn't come home the night before. And she doesn't really think much of it because Denise is 23.
Right.
But by 6 p.m. that night, Denise's parents still don't know where she is. So her mother calls a girl named Tammy Brown, one of Denise's best friends. And then Tammy called even more of Denise's friends, including Rob Calvert. But no one had heard from Denise. So Tammy gets into her car and starts driving around. She drove up to Huntington Beach, and on her way back to Newport Beach, she sees Denise's Honda parked on the side of southbound Highway 73, just north of the 55 turnoff going to Newport Beach.
Right.
Insurance isn't one size fits all. That's why drivers have enjoyed Progressive's Name Your Price tool for years now. With the Name Your Price tool, you tell them what you want to pay, and they'll show you options that fit your budget. So whether you're picking out your first policy or just looking for something that works better for you and your family, they make it easy to see your options. Visit Progressive.com. Find a rate that works for you with the Name Your Price tool. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company and Affiliates. Price and coverage match limited by state law.
And she can see that the rear passenger tire is flat. And she gets to a payphone and she calls Denise's parents. It's now about 10 p.m. on Monday night.
Okay.
Iona and Dennis, Denise's parents, go to find their daughter's car on the side of the road where Tammy tells them it's located. The car was unlocked and they opened the passenger door and looked inside, but they didn't touch anything. There were no keys in the car, and they didn't have a spare key. And in the front passenger seat of the car were her thigh highs. And again, Denise would take them off because they would be uncomfortable, right?
Sure.
Denise's Honda was on an elevated part of the Corona Del Mar freeway, and the nearest telephone would have been over 2 miles away at the intersection of Bear and Bristol Streets in Costa Mesa. And this area is really well lit at night, but there are several emergency call boxes on the road that were visible from the location of her car, including one on the transition road to Highway 55, which would be exactly the way she was going to get home to Newport Beach.
Right.
They could see that there were skid marks in the road from where her tire blew, and she maneuvered the car to the shoulder. The Honda's battery is dead. The car battery's dead from the flashers going all night. And after Denise's parents call the police, there were helicopters in the sky looking for her. They bring out the canines in the area. Everything around her car is checked, but the dogs could only trace her scent 75 yards from her car. That's it.
Yeah.
But there is no trace of Denise. Now the police start asking her mom and dad questions. Did she have any enemies? Do you have any enemies? And police interview Rob Calvert,
Sure.
the last person to see her.
Right.
He submits to a polygraph and passes with flying colors, but there are going to be a lot of people who are giving him a passing side eye, like he's possibly had something to do with her disappearance, right?
Yep.
Denise's parents put together flyers and they get them out. They have a banner made to put on the side of the apartment building where it could be seen from where her car was found. Her parents rented a plane to fly with a message behind it. They work with the media to get Denise's face out into the public in case anybody has seen anything at all. Police actually stake out the area where her car was found and watch for cars that habitually pass that way and write down their plates. And then they called them to interview them to see if they knew anything or saw anything. There was a documentary where they said that Dennis made his car a rolling billboard. Her dad made his car a rolling billboard for finding his daughter.
It's the worst nightmare.
It is. And they had loads of leads and lots of idiots giving tips that went absolutely nowhere. Dennis and Ione hired a private investigator who told them she was probably killed by someone who knew her. Again, people are looking at this poor guy, Rob Calvert, right?
Yeah.
Police followed a lot of leads, and they would call nearly every day to make Denise's parents aware of any developments, which, by the way, I saw an interview with them, and they were like, we really appreciated it. They called us every day.
Well, I'm glad that they were on top of it, you know?
Right, and I don't think that that's something that happens all the time, right?
Yeah.
Her parents asked the members of their church, Aliso Creek Presbyterian, to pray for answers. A week after John abducts Denise, he buys a large chest freezer from Montgomery Ward.
Monkey Wards.
Do you remember Montgomery Ward?
Absolutely. Yeah, a lot of our Christmas presents came from Spiegel and Montgomery Wards.
Montgomery Ward.
Yeah.
He had it delivered the next day, June 11th. He wrapped her in black plastic lawn bags and put her in this freezer. So he has it delivered to his warehouse where he brings her.
Yeah.
And then he wraps her up in plastic and puts her in this freezer.
And how long after that? After he killed her?
So he picks her up on the 3rd, the middle of the night of the 3rd, and by the 11th, he's got a freezer.
Good Lord,
So we don't know how long she was alive in between that.
Okay, all right.
Okay. There are some reports that he stored her body in an upright freezer or refrigerator inside the warehouse before putting her in the new freezer from Montgomery Ward.
Okay.
So again, we don't really know how long she was alive.
Gotcha.
Now, it's not known where he kept this freezer. There are those who believe he kept it in a storage unit. But by late 1992, John moves from California to Arizona, where his parents are in the Prescott Country Club area. And by this time, Denise's case has gone cold. Then in January of 1994, John rents a Ryder truck from a Lake Forest area Ryder franchise in Orange County. He drives it away, and he's never going to return it.
Okay.
What he is going to do in Arizona is park this truck, this big Ryder truck, in between the house where he lives and his mother's home. They live next door to each other.
Okay.
And he puts the freezer containing Denise's body inside the Ryder truck, and he runs a power cord, an extension cord, from the freezer inside the truck over the fence and into the side of his mother's house.
Well, that doesn't look suspicious at all.
He still has her body, like he's moved it from California to Phoenix. It's like he's hoarding her, right? Or she's some sort of trophy.
Yeah.
In May of 1994, John is living next door to his mom in this Prescott Country Club area in Arizona, and he has a painting business. Although by May of 1994, his license is pulled because of shoddy work and his failure to pay the people working for him.
Well, that's not surprising.
Yeah, right? It's also in May that John meets Elaine Canalia, along with her business partner, Jack Court. They meet John at a Prescott Valley swap because he's a painter and they're paint shop owners. It only stands to reason that they would get to know one another, right?
Sure.
And Elaine and Jack continued to meet John at the swap meet over the following weeks, and they kind of established a vendor-customer relationship. The next month, in June of 1994, a woman named Carolyn Copeland, she makes her living finding missing heirs for people. She had walked into the San Clemente Ryder franchise with her daughter, who was returning a rental. Okay. And Carolyn strikes up a conversation with the clerk about what she does, how she finds people. And the clerk tells her he had someone he wanted to find and asked if she could track a man who'd rented a truck and then never returned it. His name was John Famalaro.
Dun, dun, dun.
The clerk tells Carolyn he's had this truck since January of this year, 1994. Yeah. So Carolyn, being a good citizen of the world, looks up John. And she said he wasn't hard to find because of his unusual last name. And what she did find was exactly where he was living in the Dewey-Humboldt area, which includes Prescott Valley, part of Arizona. Mm-hmm. And she handed over this information to the San Clemente Ryder truck franchise, who passed it along to Ryder officials at the moving company headquarters in Miami, Florida.
Okay.
And they did absolutely nothing with it.
Really?
Not a thing.
So they didn't care that they had lost a truck.
I don't know what was happening, but I will tell you this. When the LA Times tried to reach them for comment, they didn't call them back.
Crickets.
Yeah, didn't call them back. Meanwhile, back in Newport Beach, California, Denise's parents, Dennis and Ione, are packing their things to move back to South Dakota, where they grew up and met and married. Denise's case had been on Inside Edition. It had been on America's Most Wanted. There was even a $10,000 reward for information leading to her. But their daughter's case was cold, and there were too many reminders around them to feel anything but despair. Sure. So they decided to move away.
New beginnings.
And as they were packing, they asked the folks at their church to pray for answers. They didn't ask them to pray to find Denise in particular, but just for answers. They needed answers.
Yeah, they need closure.
And they were leaving distraught because 3 years have passed and there's still no word on their daughter's fate. And they were angry because they believed somebody had information that could give them peace, but they were withholding it, right?
Yeah, they just needed closure.
They did. Denise's mother told the LA Times, quote, "Who's responsible for not letting us know what has happened? That's what embitters you. The torture of not knowing, that embitters you. What did they do with her body? Where is she so that we can put an end to all of this?" End quote.
Man.
I mean, it's hard to deal with. These are things that they just don't know.
Yeah.
And it's making their life a living hell.
Sure.
Denise's parents knew one thing for sure, that if Denise was alive, she would have found a way to communicate with them. Quote, "She was too caring a person to put us through this." End quote. Which I agree. So it's almost 3 years to the date of Denise's disappearance that they are packing up to go to South Dakota. And at the same time, on July 9th, 1994, John is back at the swap meet in Prescott, Arizona with his paint. And so are Elaine and her business partner, Jack. And they speak with John at the swap meet, who tells them he has some colorant that he wanted to sell them. So he tells them, "Just follow me back to my place." And they get there and they do buy some stuff from John, and they load several boxes into Elaine's car. And while they're doing this, John is acting really strange. It's like he wants them to get out of there, he wants them out of there as fast as he can get them out of there.
Right.
Because Jack had his 10-year-old grandson with him, and John would not allow him to go into his house to use the bathroom. And he tells them there's no running water inside the house. What?
Okay.
Yeah. So Jack and Elaine, they've been doing business with him since May. So they're thinking, okay, no big deal, right? But they're looking at this house, and it's in a really nice neighborhood, and the yard is littered with paint cans and boxes, and there's this Ryder truck parked between these two houses. Now, John already drives both a van and a pickup truck. And when Elaine sees this Ryder truck just sitting there, like it's been there for a while because there are boxes and paint stacked all around it,
Right.
she thinks it's hinky. And on a whim, she writes down the license plate number of the Ryder truck on a scrap of paper she has in her car. And Elaine felt like something was drawing her to that truck. She felt in her gut that something wasn't right. And then she sees that there's a power cord running from the truck over a fence to the side of the house.
Yeah.
Jack and Elaine leave, and I can only imagine this conversation, because if Rob and I were having it, she's saying to Jack, there's something up with that guy. I mean, you know how when you just get that ick from someone or a situation and you know it's not right?
Yeah, listen, every time I see a trash bag on the side of the road, my first thought is that really trash?
Yeah, but I mean, even when you meet somebody,
Yeah.
right?
No, I agree.
Like when I meet people, so I'll tell Rob immediately, like,
yeah.
something is up with that person. And I can see her in my head saying this to Jack.
Sure.
It's just nagging at Elaine.
Right.
A couple days later, on July 12th, a detective friend of Elaine's shows up at her warehouse to buy some paint. And while he's there, Elaine gives him the license plate number and tells him, "Got this really weird feeling, and I think it might be worth checking into this Ryder truck. I think something's up with it. Maybe it's stolen. I don't know, but something weird's going on."
Right.
And her friend, who's the detective, he doesn't even wait to go back to his office. He calls right from Elaine's place and discovers that the people at Ryder headquarters in Miami and the franchise in San Clemente already know this is a stolen truck.
Yeah, right.
Well, yeah, they'd already been told.
Yeah, sure.
But now they've got a detective telling them, and not just somebody who tracks down heirs who are, I guess there's a bunch of money that needs to be given to somebody.
Yeah.
Maybe someday that'll happen to me. I've got some long lost uncle somewhere that wants to leave me a bunch of money.
I'll just keep looking for Ryder trucks.
Yeah, it's not going to happen.
Yeah.
One day later, on July 13th, in Prescott, Arizona, Yavapai County Deputy Sheriff Joe DiGiacomo, I hope I got that right because it looks like DiGiacomo. I don't know if he uses more Italian-based way of saying his name or the Southwest version. I'm just going to call him Joe.
That whole thing was a mouthful.
From here on out, okay?
Okay.
Deputy Joe gets the radio call about a possible stolen vehicle. It was a 24-foot Ryder rental truck that was parked on the side of a house at 685 Cochise Drive inside the Prescott Country Club area.
Yeah, I mean, in a country club area and you've got a Ryder truck sitting at 24-foot.
Where's the HOA?
Yeah, exactly.
People don't cut their grass here, and it's been raining a bunch, and they'll get a letter from or an email from the HOA.
Your grass is a quarter-inch higher than it should be.
Yeah, exactly. So Officer Joe, Sheriff Joe, he's a sheriff. He runs the plates himself.
Okay.
And he discovers for himself that the plates were reported stolen. This thing was reported stolen from Orange County, California in January of 1994. So about 7 months ago.
Okay.
He pulls up to the address as he sees the truck parked between the two houses. Nobody's home at John Famalaro's place, 685 Cochise.
Right.
But because the truck has been reported stolen, they need to secure it and conduct an inventory of what's inside. But the truck was locked, and Sheriff Joe has to call for a locksmith. Now, in the meantime, he sees that this truck has an electrical cord running from the truck over the fence into the side of this other house, and he doesn't like this, and not for reasons you might think.
You're listening to this podcast, so I know you've got a curious mind. Here's a helpful fact you may not know yet. Drivers who switch and save with Progressive save over $900 on average. Pop over to Progressive.com, answer some questions, and you'll get a quick quote with discounts that are easy to come by. In fact, 99% of their auto customers earn at least one discount. Visit Progressive.com and see if you can enjoy a little cash back. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company and Affiliates. National average 12-month savings of $946 by new customers surveyed who saved with Progressive between June 2024 and May 2025. Potential savings will vary.
The locksmith arrives. He wears gloves so he doesn't interfere with any fingerprints.
Sure.
They get the truck open, and there's a ton of painting equipment, including these big 5-gallon buckets of paint and rollers and canvas and that type of thing. But there was also a freezer, and the freezer had a lock on it, and it was sealed with a ton of tape. And when Sheriff Joe sees this, the first thing to cross his mind is that he's stumbled onto a mobile meth lab. Yeah. And what do mobile meth labs do all the time?
They blow up.
They blow up.
Yeah.
It's one of the reasons law enforcement prioritizes them beyond the drug itself, because the labs are legitimate public safety hazards.
Yeah.
Mobile meth lab setups are particularly risky because they're makeshift, they're poorly ventilated, and they're always on the move, increasing the chance of spills, leaks, or accidents. And when one explodes, it can be powerful enough to level structures, cause serious injuries and burns just to bystanders, and then it requires a hazmat response.
Yeah.
So Joe sees this and is like, oh no, this is a meth lab.
It's a whole thing.
So Joe calls in the Prescott Area Narcotics Task Force, better known as PANT. I liked that.
Why are you panting?
Yeah. But when they arrive, they look at the paint cans in the freezer and they say, we don't think this is a meth lab.
Yeah.
But they were concerned about the electrical cord in the freezer, so they continued to treat it as a possible mobile drug lab. And the fire department is called to the scene because they're worried about booby traps or safety hazards.
Sure.
Then 2 narcotics officers put on gloves, and the lock on the freezer was cut off. And they started pulling all the tape off the outside of the freezer, and immediately Sheriff Joe can smell death. He knew it was either a dead animal or worse.
Right.
They opened the freezer, and one of the narcotics officers reaches in, and he felt what he believed was a human shoulder. So whatever's in there is all wrapped up in these black trash bags.
Sure.
and he thinks he's touched a human shoulder and something metal. And at this point, Sheriff Joe knows he's got a dead body.
Yeah, we got a homicide on our hands.
And he clears everybody out, puts up the crime scene tape, and calls his supervisor, Lieutenant Scott Masher. And Lieutenant Masher arrives and notices that the stolen Ryder truck is sitting next to a white Dodge pickup. And Lieutenant Masher and Detective Brown open the freezer, and they see the black plastic bag in the lower left side of the freezer. It was the only thing inside, and they could see what looked like frozen blood or body fluids on the bottom of the freezer. And ice crystals and frost was everywhere. So it looked like something had been frozen for a very, very long time.
Right.
Now, they can't see inside the black bags. They're like the ones you used to use for lawn clippings before we all started using the big tall paper bags.
Right.
But from the odor, they knew whatever it was, it had been decomposing for a while.
Right.
Detective Brown cut open one side of the bag and then threw another bag and then yet another bag, 3 black bags. And when they peeled it back, Lieutenant Masher could see a human shoulder and some decomposing flesh. He could also see where the hands were secured behind the back with steel handcuffs around the wrists. Sheriff Joe has said he remembered so clearly her perfectly manicured nails. They open the bag a little more, just trying to see if they could identify the body. She is nude, and her body is curled over with her head bent down and tucked under her chest, like tucked to her chest, and she's in a kneeling position. Lieutenant Masher doesn't see any blood spatter, which tells him that she wasn't actually killed in the freezer. So he closes it back up because he wants everything, including the truck, taken directly to the crime lab in Phoenix.
Right.
Before they release the truck, the county attorney who's going to be prosecuting this case shows up at the scene. He wants to see it all from the beginning. He thinks he's going to be prosecuting this case.
Right.
And he wants to see it all from the get-go.
Sure.
The police start asking questions of the neighbors. Who John Famalaro was. Who is this guy? And they learn that he lives next door to his mother, and that's where they believe he is, that he had left early that morning with his crazy mom, Ann. So the police set up a perimeter around his home, so he can't run if he sees the police cars. And at 5:30 p.m. on July 13th, John Famalaro and his mother, Ann, are both in the area. They pull up, they see all the things that are going on, and as soon as they get out of the car, they're in handcuffs and they're arrested.
You're busted.
And they put them in separate cars. They're keeping these two apart.
Yep.
They take John to the county sheriff's office and get him in a room and say, look, we've seized the Ryder truck that was stolen. And John says nothing. And then Sheriff Joe says to him, I'm going to need you to tell me about that body in the truck. And that's when John shuts up and immediately says he wants an attorney.
Mm-hmm.
John is charged and booked into the county jail for murder 1 and theft. Now, after finding the body, authorities immediately get a search warrant for the house. And there were several detectives working at the same time. They each took a room and scoured it for evidence, which was hard because John was a hoarder.
Right.
And what Sheriff Joe did see was that John had begun digging out a place under his house. And it already had like a dirt floor, and he was starting to store more stuff down there. But these detectives are searching this house for days. I want to say they're going to search this house for 26 days inside this house.
Wow.
They're also going to question Ann, John's mother, asking her, why did you allow John to run an extension cord to your home? And she tells them that John told her it was to prevent food from spoiling during a power outage. Remember, she's still afraid the Russians are coming.
Okay.
But if the power goes out, there's no power at your house either,
Yeah.
Ann. So what the heck in heck, man?
Yeah, well.
They release her, believing that she didn't have anything to do with John's activities. Meanwhile, the frozen body shows up on the doorstep of Dr. Ann Buchholz, who is the medical examiner in Phoenix. And she was there when they opened the freezer and she saw the remains inside. But she said she needed to wait until the exterior of the freezer was processed by investigators before she could remove the body. It was frozen solid, and the body and the black plastic were stuck to the bottom of the freezer where there was this frozen layer of liquid, right?
Jeez.
On July 14th, 1994, after the body was removed from the freezer and placed into a body bag, it was taken to the medical examiner's office, Dr. Buchholz's office, where her first concern was to obtain any evidence she could find before it was destroyed by the thawing process. They needed her fingerprints in order to ID her. And the handcuffs on her wrists were so tight that the doctor could not pass her fingers underneath the cuffs and move them.
Man.
They had to be taken off with bolt cutters. Then a man named Mike Quinney, who is the fingerprint expert there in Phoenix, comes to take fingerprints from the body. He's the guy.
Right.
And the medical examiner had never done an autopsy on a frozen body. They were used to bodies that were coming in from the desert where it's dry,
Sure.
right?
Yeah.
In order to take her fingerprints, they had to use a hair dryer to thaw her fingers. And then the fingerprint expert, Mike Quinney, comes in, he gets her fingerprint, and that's when they know it's Denise Huber. And they contact her parents, who were just getting ready to leave California. Now, her mother said she knew, like deep in her heart, she knew that her daughter was gone. She just wanted closure.
Sure.
Denise's father, on the other hand, God love his heart, he was still holding out hope to get his daughter back. But at last they had some closure.
Sure.
Now, at the medical examiner's office, Dr. Buchholz knows she can't thaw this body out too fast. She's able to do a rape collection, but she's not able to do much because the body is still so frozen and in a fetal position. And the plastic bags are frozen to the body as well. So they have to let everything thaw out, because if they just pull it off, they're pulling off evidence,
Sure.
right?
You're right.
She has to use the hair dryer again to thaw out certain body parts so they could be moved.
God.
And this is when she discovered that the head was covered in 3 white kitchen garbage bags. When she removed them, she sees that there is duct tape covering the victim's eyes and her mouth. There was a cloth soaked in blood inside one of the white bags around her head. Now, 2 days later, on July 16th, Denise's body is completely thawed. And what they discover is that there were a number of external injuries to her head and a large gaping laceration on the scalp above the left eye. She had skull fractures, and there was white plastic from the garbage bag embedded in the skull where he had smashed her head so hard while it was covered in the white garbage bag.
Jeez.
Her skull is so badly damaged that the doctor can't determine how many blows she actually took to the head, but she could determine the minimum number it would take for her injuries. 31.
Oh my gosh.
The cause of death was obviously blunt force trauma to the head. She'd been hit so hard again, the garbage bags the pieces were embedded into her skull. And the rape kit showed that she had been sodomized. Now, back at John's home on Cochise Drive, Sheriff Joe is working in the garage when he sees boxes on a shelf marked Christmas in Sharpie. There were these boxes that had shipping labels addressed to Dragonfly in Laguna Hills, California.
Okay.
Inside the first box, which was opened by Lieutenant Masher, he finds a backpack on top of a black garbage bag that looked identical to the ones on the body in the freezer.
Okay.
There were more boxes inside that backpack that contained a woman's jacket, a dress, a hammer, and some car keys. The hammer had blood on it, as did the jacket, and the right shoulder strap of the dress had been torn off and was frayed. There was a piece of chewed gum stuck to the back of the jacket's collar, and there was a pack of the same chewing gum in the pocket of the jacket.
Okay.
Inside the second box of interest, there was another large black garbage bag and a leather wallet with a bunch of credit cards, a AAA card, a checkbook, all with Denise Huber's name on them.
Yeah.
This episode is brought to you by Progressive Insurance. Do you ever think about switching insurance companies to see if you could save some cash? Progressive makes it easy. Just drop in some details about yourself and see if you're eligible to save money when you bundle your home and auto policies. The process only takes minutes, and it could mean hundreds more in your pocket. Visit Progressive.com after this episode to see if you could save. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company and Affiliates. Potential savings will vary. Not available in all states.
And they even found her purse.
Man.
And then inside a smaller box that was marked Ameritone paint, there was a makeup compact, a set of keys that included a key to a Honda, a little black lipstick pouch, and a pair of black high-heeled pumps. And the back of those heels were severely scraped where she had been dragged.
Wow.
The box had bloodstains on it and blood on the front of one of her stilettos, one of her high heels. When they opened the black garbage bag in the second box, they found jeans with blood on them, stone-washed jeans, the same size and type they found in John Famalaro's closet. They also found a Lake Wobegon sweatshirt. It's also covered in blood. And a pair of surgical gloves were also found in the box that were turned inside out, like someone had taken them off. There were rags all stuck together with dried blood. There was an empty box that was meant for a set of handcuffs. There was duct tape and a big pry bar, this pry bar to get nails out of like a roof,
Yeah.
that also has blood on it. It's just crazy.
Yeah.
He's kept everything.
Yeah.
In the corner of the garage, they find another box with a blood-stained tarp inside, and rolled inside it was another shirt covered in blood. Inside John's house, they found handcuff keys and a little brown coffee cup inside a desk drawer. And among all the papers, he has all these newspapers.
Right.
There were newspapers stacked. There were two stacks. They were 20 inches high. And on the top of the stack was an Orange County Register dated June 7th, 1991, with the headline, quote, "Newport woman still missing. Officers stymied. Family offers $5,000, end quote. He had loads of newspapers, all with the story of the missing Denise Huber. He even had a videotape where he had taped the Inside Edition story on Denise's disappearance. He's following her murder investigation.
And he's making it very easy for the prosecutor.
Yeah.
Wow.
Police even find the receipt for the freezer, which they now know he purchased on June 10th from Montgomery Ward and had it delivered on June 11th, 8 days after Denise disappeared.
Wow.
Now, police speak with people who knew John, including his former girlfriends, Nancy and Cheryl, who told the police about their harrowing encounters with John while dating him and how he would handcuff them and threaten them.
Right.
And Nancy told police that John owned and operated his own painting business out of a warehouse in Laguna Hills, and that one time he was also living at this warehouse and using one of the two offices as his bedroom, which he kept padlocked. And the investigators are like, well, we're sure as hell going to go check that out.
Yeah.
And on July 18th, 1994, Laurie Crutchfield, who is a forensic scientist with the Orange County Crime Lab, goes inside this warehouse. She sweeps this warehouse. She sprays luminol everywhere, and it lights up like the 4th of July.
Yeah.
It was such a positive result that they needed to take out drywall. And what they discovered inside the walls was that there was so much blood, it had soaked into the 2x4s.
Good grief.
And they could see that blood with the naked eye. They didn't even need the luminol for that.
Gee whiz.
At John's house, where they find the black dress, the Honda keys, the high heels, Rob Calvert comes in to say, yes, that is exactly what Denise was wearing the night we went to the concert. And this guy has to be like,
Yeah.
thank you, Jesus.
Yeah.
no one can think I had anything to do with this anymore. Because I think he was pretty tortured over that.
Well, yeah. I mean, what, 3 years?
Yeah, and he was the last person to see her.
Man.
John waives extradition and heads back to California, where he's going to stand trial. He's been charged with sodomy and murder, and that in 1994 equals the death penalty.
Yeah.
He was given a $250,000 bond, but it's immediately revoked because the prosecutor says the crime was depraved and there could be other victims. They just don't know.
Right.
And what about Elaine, the woman who couldn't leave that whole situation alone when she sees the Ryder truck and writes down the plate number?
Yeah.
She calls Denise's parents to tell them how sorry she was. And her parents tell Elaine that they believed it was God's will that she helped find their lost child, because she couldn't let go of the feeling that while she was there, something wasn't right. It was suspicious.
Yep.
And according to Elaine, she just felt, quote, this really strong pull, end quote, coming from the truck.
Wow.
But she didn't know the reason. So if you believe in divine intervention, she was there for a reason.
Yeah.
And Denise's parents said that they knew where the pull came from. They'd been praying really hard. And Elaine is actually offered the $10,000 reward, but she turned it down, saying she was glad to help, but was really sorry about the outcome.
What a nice lady.
What a wonderful, wonderful person.
Yeah.
Give that woman a medal, right?
Yeah, exactly.
The preliminary hearings and arraignment was in late 1994 and early 1995 in Orange County. The murder trial began in January of 1997 in Orange County Superior Court in Santa Ana, California, with Judge John Ryan presiding. Denise's parents, Dennis and Ione, and all their close friends attended the trial every day. They wanted to know what happened. And although John Famalaro has never spoken about that night, the evidence did all the talking.
Yeah.
She was abducted after her flat tire, hit in the head, taken to John's warehouse where he might have kept her alive for a few days, handcuffed and gagged, at least until his freezer shows up. He beat her, sodomized her, and eventually crushed her skull with his pry bar. Then he wrapped her up in the trash bags and put her in the freezer until he was caught. And then he kept every single piece of evidence. All of it. Hoarder.
Yeah.
He's a hoarder.
Man.
On May 22nd, 1997, John Famalaro was found guilty by a unanimous vote of the jury of kidnapping, sodomy, and murder. And on September 6, 1997, Judge John Ryan sentenced John to death. He was moved to San Quentin death row, and you'd think that maybe he would still be sitting there today. Hang on.
Uh-oh.
He did try to appeal his case, saying they couldn't find an impartial jury for his trial. By the way, he never takes the stand in his own defense.
Yeah.
But he's saying they could never find an impartial jury for this trial. And nobody got to hear about his abusive childhood. And this appeal goes all the way to the California Supreme Court, where it is denied.
Yay, good.
John sat on death row in San Quentin for 24 years following his conviction and death sentence, but he never received an execution date, and California has put all executions on hold. But after declining health, John Famalaro died at San Quentin on August 1st, 2021, at the age of 64.
Oh, too bad.
Yeah, and Denise's friends and family thought it was just a little bit too easy of an exit for him, too humane after everything that he did.
Right.
I do believe that Denise's parents are still alive. I couldn't find an obituary for either one of them. They would be in their 80s today. I want to say Denise's parents didn't just grieve the loss of their daughter. They fought to find her. They pushed for justice across state lines. They sat through years of hearings and appeals. Even 25 years later in 2016, the wound was still raw when they gave an interview with the LA Times. Quote, "The wound never heals. Time helps, but only to an extent." And she added with heartbreaking honesty that they would probably die before John Famalaro ever faced execution. But I don't think they did. I think they outlived him.
Yeah.
That's the cruel reality so many victims' families face, a fight for justice that outlasts a lifetime of grief.
Yeah.
And Dennis and Ione Huber kept Denise's memory alive as the vibrant, loving 23-year-old she was, not just as a name like in a true crime story. They really keep her name alive. There was a service for Denise in Newport Beach. She was buried in Harried, South Dakota, next to her grandparents, Alvina and Edward.
Oh.
But that is the story of Denise Huber and John Famalaro, who's burning in hell after Elaine's divine intervention moments. And that's all I have to say about that.
This episode is brought to you by Progressive Insurance. Do you ever think about switching insurance companies to see if you could save some cash? Progressive makes it easy. Just drop in some details about yourself and see if you're eligible to save money when you bundle your home and auto policies. The process only takes minutes, and it could mean hundreds more in your pocket. Visit Progressive.com after this episode to see if you could save. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company and Affiliates. Potential savings will vary. Not available in all states.
Okay, my take on this, it's such a sad story, but the fact that victims like this, the horror that they go through.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not like, the criminal finds them, kills them, and that's it. No, he tortured her.
Yeah, I think he probably tortured her. Based on what he did to his ex-girlfriends,
Yeah.
I think that he was into that. I
Yeah.
think he was definitely into that. And listen, he's a squirrely looking dude too. I will post
sure.
pictures of him in the In-Laws and Outlaws, but he wasn't right. He ain't right.
Wow.
And I don't think she agreed to take his help. I mean, he may have said, "Let me help you." She probably said, "No, I'm walking to that call box."
Yeah.
And it was just late at night, and she didn't have a phone. And
Jeez.
I will say, her father said we were like a walking advertisement for parents to buy phones for their kids. Everybody's kid got a phone after what happened to Denise.
Yeah.
And if something good comes out of it, then they made it safer for other kids to be out there driving when there are people like John on the road.
Yeah. Well, thank God that he's no longer on the face of the earth and he's facing his demons.
Yeah, well, he is a demon. Good
Yeah.
Lord.
Yeah.
What a horrible, horrible person.
Man. All right, well, let's move on with a little Bless Your Heart.
Well, bless your heart.
All right, number one, I'm calling, you got to hear a referee's whistle. Red flag thrown for illegal use of funds.
Red flag or red card?
Yeah, could be a red card right now. The bloom may have worn off the Tom Brady rose for Gisele Bundchen some time ago, but a New Hampshire woman's infatuation for the former New England Patriot spurred her to fork over $6,000 for tickets to watch him play against his old team.
Okay.
One problem, the money wasn't hers to begin with.
Oh.
NBC Boston reports that a federal judge on Thursday sentenced 39-year-old Stephanie Pratt to 30 months behind bars and 3 years of supervised release following her guilty plea over the summer to a wire fraud charge.
Oops.
She's been accused of stealing almost $500,000 from her employer.
Wow.
Some of which she used to fund her 2021 trip to Gillette Stadium, where Brady had returned to face the Patriots as quarterback for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers.
Did he win that game?
I don't know.
I can't remember.
I can't either. Now, the kicker, just 6 months before she started ripping off her employer, Pratt had finished serving out a prison sentence for swiping close to $10,000 from another employer. And when she was caught the second time around, she insisted she'd been siphoning off money to help out the owner's son, despite the fact that, unbeknownst to her, the owner's son had died.
Oh, that's unfortunate.
Yeah, the defendant will spend the next 2.5 years in federal prison.
How? Well, she's clearly out now because Brady's been out of football for a while. But if she went to jail for financial fraud, why would she put in a position where she could do it all over again?
Who knows?
That's something else.
Yeah. All right, number two.
Number two.
Gonna blame it on the GPS.
Okay.
The Canadian Mounties say that an American man entered the wrong GPS coordinates and accidentally ended up in Canada, which probably wouldn't have been a major issue if his car hadn't been full of cannabis and cash.
Oops.
In a press release Tuesday, the Royal Canadian Mounted Police said the driver took a wrong turn last month and ended up in the border lineup at the Rainbow Bridge crossing in Niagara Falls.
Okay.
Quote, as the driver had no passport, he was referred for a secondary examination, unquote, the RCMP said. Now, officials found around 400 pounds of cannabis in the vehicle, along with more than $602,000 in American bucks.
That's no small thing.
Nah. The RCMP, that's the Royal Canadian Mounted Police,
Yes.
said the cannabis and currency was separated into boxes and vacuum-packed bundles, quote, consistent with those commonly used by drug dealers or money launderers, unquote.
Yeah.
Yeah, they described the find as highly suspicious evidence. Duh. The driver, a 60-year-old California resident, Andrew Lee Toppenberg, faces multiple charges, including importing cannabis and possession of proceeds of property over $5,000, knowing that all or part of the proceeds of property was obtained by a crime in the United States of America. Did you get all that?
I did.
Yeah. So basically, when you're crossing a border, you have to claim what money you have. And if you have over $5,000, that's when it's a problem.
Yeah, I think if you take anything, they ask you, are you bringing anything back with you?
Yeah.
And they'll take your car apart and look inside,
Yeah.
to see what they got going on. But I will say this, they're nice about it because they're Canadian.
Exactly. Well, he was remanded into custody and pending a bail hearing. All right, number 3 and finally.
And finally.
That's all, folks. A caricature out of California either shows the most confident thief ever or a very stupid one. I'm going to go with the second.
Okay.
Police in Riverside are asking anyone who recognizes the caricature to reach out, and no, we're not kidding. After the man caricature drawn, he robbed the artist of $500 in cash. So
one of those people on the the boardwalk or whatever on the sidewalk.
Yeah, so the guy on the boardwalk, he
did a caricature of him, and then he stole the guy's money, and that was all he had to show what he looked like.
The artist had just completed the image of the suspect at the Festival of Lights on December 5th when the male took off with a money bag, leaving the drawing behind, per NBC News. Quote, this caricature is one of the suspect, but of course has exaggerated characteristics and features, unquote, police say.
Got a really big head and a tiny little body.
The man is described as in his early 20s, about 5'1", with black hair and a mustache. He was last seen wearing a blue and red jacket and black pants, in addition to the pictured red hat. So if you see him and he looks like somebody from Bugs Bunny,
that's hilarious.
Report
actually.
him.
I feel bad for the artist, but at the same time, that's pretty funny. And I want to see the footage where the news anchors had to put that picture up and talk about it. Yeah. That's what I want to see.
I love the one. I've seen the one where the news anchor, they put up a drawing of the criminal, and it looks exactly like the news anchor. I think that's hilarious. Anyway, so there's your Bless Your Hearts.
That's really good.
Yeah.
Well, if you have a bless your heart or you know somebody's heart who needs blessing, all you got to do is go to hitchedtohomicide.com. When you get there, there's a pull-down menu, and while you're there, you can also suggest a case or tell us about your brush with true crime.
Yep.
That's my amazing, sick, God love his heart, husband out there.
And that's my beautiful bride in the booth that takes care of me.
Join us next time on Hitched to Homicide.
Bye, y'all.
If you like the show, please take a moment to rate, review, and subscribe. It really does help the show to grow. Thank you for listening.